Hello and welcome. I'm Patrick Curtis, your host and chief monkey, and this is the Wall Street Oasis podcast. Join me as I talk to some of the community's most successful and inspirational members to gain valuable insight into different career paths and life in general. Let's get to it. In this episode, Jeff Sands, a veteran of corporate turnarounds, shares his winding path. Learn why a graduate from the South moved to Alaska for 10 years, why he got his MBA, how he transitioned to his family business, and what he did when they were wiped out by Hurricane Katrina. This is a very interesting episode, especially in light of how COVID-19 is rocking financial markets and economies around the world. Enjoy. All right, Jeff, thanks so much for joining the Wall Street Oasis podcast.
You bet. Great to be here.
It would be great if you could give the listeners just a short summary of your bio.
So real quickly, grew up in a family manufacturing business and in a long line of entrepreneurs, and was always determined to be an entrepreneur myself. Economics degree, MBA, worked outside the family business for 12 years, went back, worked in the family business, experienced my first turnaround there.
What did you guys make?
We printed textiles. So we took raw polyester, printed artistic designs on it, and sold it as stuff your mom would buy to decorate the house. Pillows, the decorative flag in front of the home, stuff like that.
And it was a family business. Your dad started it?
Yeah, my dad started it from scratch. My mom wouldn't let him put it in the garage. So he started with a very small rented space and one little heat transfer machine, and built it to about 280 employees at its peak.
Great. So then you joined right out of school.
No, I school, and then afterwards I spent 8 years working out of the 4 years in school and then 8 years working out of the family business in a variety of industries: biotech startup, Fortune 500 distributor, worked for a crazy Russian importer. We're swapping out Russian sporting goods for chicken quarters, entire shiploads full of chicken.
And just to give people some context, when did you graduated undergrad in 89, correct?
89, yep.
So right before a recession.
Yes. And I went up, I read way too much Jack London as a kid. I was obsessed with living in Alaska since I was like 12, which is odd for a kid growing up in New Orleans. But I wanted to go straight from high school to Alaska. My parents convinced me to go to college, and I went I think the day after graduation, went up to Alaska, lived there for my 20s with my college girlfriend, who's now my wife, and got my MBA, worked in a wide variety of jobs, but a lot of it was just supporting a fantastic single, kind of free before children lifestyle.
And what would you do there? What were you, just hiking?
Ice climbing, mountaineering, skiing, supporting the lifestyle a lot. Working hard, put ourselves through grad school at nights, but pre-kids, you have all the time in the world.
It's funny, I have a lot of family down in New Orleans. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. As you know, great town.
Great town.
There's not many like it.
Yeah, I was just down there for the holidays. It was awesome.
Oh, cool.
So you get the MBA. Why get the MBA if you're kind of this free spirit out in Alaska? You just felt like you get better jobs out there?
Because I knew Alaska was short-lived, and I knew I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. My father's a successful one. My mom was, my grandmother. And when you see entrepreneurship work, who wouldn't be attracted to that?
And when you kind of going into business school, did you have an idea of something you wanted to start? Was it just like, no, I just want that foundational skill set?
Pretty much the foundational skill set.
Okay.
I've always wanted to know what I don't know. And I've always wanted to be able to size up, what don't I know? I don't like being unprepared.
Was your dad kind of pushing you to get it, to come back and help run the business, or?
No, he really wasn't. He was great. He gave me my freedom. He had a strict rule: can't come back before you're 30. Go get outside experience. But really no pressure.
Isn't that rare? Didn't he feel like he could teach? That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And I've told my son the same thing. I've told all my kids the same thing. Go tackle the world, and If you want to come back, great, but otherwise, go figure it out. Go,
Very cool.
go realize what a real boss is like.
Yeah, exactly. Go realize how hard actual life is, right?
Yeah.
So when you're out there in Alaska, was it like touch and go at any point, or were you just like employed by? I know you did a lot of random things.
A lot of random things kept my, I keep my lifestyle, my overhead low.
Yeah,
Gives you lots of freedom, and I still recommend that.
very cool. So you get the MBA, you come back, and it's now time. You're in
Worked at
you're
Yeah,
in
worked at the
Louisiana.
family business. Kind of worked my way up from sales through operations and everything else. Got into our first turnaround in 2002. Our biggest product at the time was decorative flags. 9/11 happened. Everybody put up, the American flag, and nobody flew a decorative flag for like a year. And our revenues dropped. Oh, what was it? It was like 70% in 3 years or something.
Do you mind sharing what the revenue was?
Peak was right around 30 million.
So 30, it went from about 30 to 10,
Yeah, maybe 12 or something. It's hard to remember.
12 around this. Yeah,
And my joke is it took me 3 years to pull off. Well, my joke is it took me 3 years to pull off a 6-month turnaround. And the shock was I thought I was pretty clever. The bank came in, really put the squeeze on us. Our CFO was playing tricks with the inventory. That shame on me, I didn't count. And the problem was I had started another business. My dad had retired. We brought in professional managers to run the cash cow. They screwed it up, and then they hid their losses. And then the bank saw it. The bank came in and squeezed us. And I went home and I'm like, I don't know a damn thing about fixing a business. Went through all my college textbooks, nothing. Went to Barnes and Noble the next day. There's 4 racks of management books, and not a single title on the topic. It's like studying life without ever contemplating sickness or death. It's just, and you go to Barnes and Noble, and it's just garbage. Just all this hype about being an entrepreneur, and hype. Nothing about dealing with anything like we're dealing today. We're recording this on March 17th. The world's melting down from coronavirus.
yeah.
And nobody has learned anything about dealing with any of this crap in any business school.
Do you
It's
feel like
stunning.
do you feel like the turnaround, a sort of roadmap is much different on like a service business or a manufacturing business, or are there certain kind of broad lessons you can apply across?
A huge broad lessons, and really it's levers. And I would say the biggest difference in the different business models is the availability of levers. Manufacturing is really complex, so there's a lot you can pull on.
Yeah.
And a vacant piece of real estate, there's nothing you can do but call a real estate broker.
Hmm.
A vacant factory with AR and inventory and a workforce and machinery and equipment, those are all levers you can pull, and they're all assets you can squeeze cash out of.
Interesting.
So,
So
service business has less, but you
yeah,
still got, you don't have AR, but you still got lots of other stuff.
for sure. So you're working kind of in the family business. It's dramatic downturn for 102, and you start kind of just trying to figure out what's going on. So what did you do? Like
Well,
how did you get it?
we did everything too damn slow, which is the biggest issue. We probably did generally the right things. We just did them too slow, too timid. But 3 years later, everything was wonderful. We had a huge product backlog. We leaned ourselves way down. Great product development backlog, pre-booking lots and lots of orders, going into our busy season. Every single thing, making a profit, generating cash. Everything was marvelous except the balance sheet. It was so good that I left for a long overdue vacation. During that vacation, Hurricane Katrina rolled in, wiped out everything. I came zipping back and dealt with it from there. Our house was flooded. Our neighborhood was destroyed. The business was damaged. All the employees scattered. And I spent about 8-9 months living in a trailer with 3 young kids and my wife, rebuilding the business, rebuilding the house. Got them both rebuilt, but at the end of that, our balance sheet was weak going in, and we just never got it turned around enough. Ended up selling at a loss. I'll tell you, don't ever talk to a bankruptcy lawyer if you don't know what the hell you're doing, because their answer to everything is file bankruptcy. So we went and talked to a bankruptcy lawyer. They said, oh, that's really easy, file bankruptcy. Next thing you know, I'm filing personal and corporate bankruptcy, and then thinking like, what were my options? And that created, apparently I'm a really sore loser, because that put a huge chip on my shoulder, and I just wanted to relitigate and refight what had happened to me over the last several years. And I just became completely obsessed. I gave up reading and hobbies, and just read everything I could on insolvency, and realized how many good options there were and how much better I could have played the game. And then for myself, it was really looking for another shot. So, I was looking for a turnaround because I wanted to go refight some old battles. But at the same time, once I did and got that out of my system, then I'm helping entrepreneurs save their business and not go through what I went through. And then that's very rewarding. Then you go save a couple businesses where it's the biggest industrial employer in the county, and the county really needs it. It's a rundown county in the Rust Belt, and you're going to, 100 jobs are about to disappear, and everybody really needs it. And you save that, and it's just the greatest feeling in the world. And now I do it just because I'm hooked on that sort of superhero feeling. It's just magnificent.
And
The
so when you
downs,
said you wanted to kind of go, so you filed for bankruptcy. What kind of got you back going? What was that next shot for you?
I languished for a while, and then
What did you guys do? You're in that trailer. What was the next step?
moved to Vermont, got away from hurricanes, and ultimately took a lousy job, got my feet underneath me, then hung my shingle as a turnaround consultant, starved for 5 months, and then got a lead on a company in Detroit, flew out there, met with the owner. He hired me that day, and this was in 2009. Their revenues had fallen 90% in 9 months.
How did you sell yourself as a turnaround consultant, given that, you had that past? Were you saying, well, I won't let this, because you did have some good track records in terms of turning things around.
Mm-hmm.
But then
a lot.
It was easy to say like, okay, well, Hurricane Katrina, that was it. But in terms of how you sold yourself, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's really important for people to know how to sell themselves when they're going into meetings like that.
I lots and lots of fake confidence. That's pretty much it. I knew I was starving. I hadn't brought a nickel into the family of 5 in months, and lots and lots and lots of confidence, and it worked. And he didn't have a lot of great options. The bank was foreclosing. He was leaving for 3 months for intensive cancer treatments.
Oh man.
And he didn't have any other good options, thank God. And I took it, and I went after. Oh my God, I went after that thing like it was the battle of a lifetime. And but 2 months later, we turned a small profit, and that's literally, revenues fell 90%. It was a complete bloodbath.
Wow.
We got a small profit.
Can you share what industry it was in?
Yeah, it was metal machining.
Okay.
And
why did it take a 90% hit and it just flooded with
Caterpillar? They were a high cost, high quality aerospace shop. They had 100 parts on the Mars rover. They used to do all this fantastic work.
Got it.
And then the owner wasn't really paying attention. The salesperson realized that he got as many high fives bringing in $1 million order from Caterpillar as he did from Boeing. Of course, the order from Caterpillar had no margin in it whatsoever. But he felt like a superstar because revenue's up, their gross margin sucked. They got completely pregnant with Caterpillar. Then, what's probably going to happen now, the order book just vanishes. Just every week, the order book gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And all of a sudden, you're like, there's a 90% decline in revenues.
Jeez.
It was shocking.
Yeah.
But
so besides layoffs, obviously, or furloughing, or getting people
we got the head of sales who was quitting, and convinced him to stick with us, and we basically went back to the customers and fought like hell, clawed our way back to business. Also timing helps. This was August of 2009, so the economy was sort of bouncing back. Just like we're going to see in 6 months, a turnaround 6 months from now is going to be a lot easier than a turnaround right now. And I always say, it's lots of timing and lots and lots and lots of luck in the turnaround. You'll meet a I don't know, a life coach who will tell you there's no such thing as luck. It's all about preparation or some crap. But everybody believes in bad luck, right?
Yeah.
Cancer and hurricanes and tornadoes hit and viruses hit. And there's good luck and bad luck. Some comes fast, some comes slow. And quite frankly, if you can get the good luck early and the bad luck later, you'll probably survive. If it's the opposite, you'll probably burn up your cash and your options before you can.
Yeah.
Or you're just wounded. And, like we've bought big, old industrial rundown factories with old rundown equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the equipment will go 2 years before it breaks, and sometimes they'll break the month after you buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And and that it's all luck. And then that equipment breaks the first month, you're screwed as far as cash flow. There goes your whole model. Everything's out the window. 2 years, I can generate enough cash and enough cushion and comfort that when the equipment goes down in 2 years, we can work around it.
So tell me a little bit about, so you went into that was kind of like a really critical engagement. So was it like a full-time, you're just coming in, you're doing this turnaround, you're CEO, you have the full reins since he was out?
Yep, exactly. And I'll tell you my two best turnarounds for clients. One was this guy who left for 3 months of cancer treatment. The other was the CEO committed suicide the day before I was hired. But when there's nobody around to second guess, it's amazing how fast you can move and what kind of progress you can make. When you're stuck with the CEO who doesn't want you to cancel the country club membership, still has his eyes set on an RV for the summer, and all that lunacy, it just slows you down, and you don't make nearly as good progress. And doing doing turnarounds as an investor, obviously you don't have this legacy CEO, makes it a lot more enjoyable.
So tell me, how long was that engagement where you kind of got things profitable really fast, but then, the economy was still pretty weak in 2009. So did he come back after his treatment and you just handed the reins back? And
yeah, pretty much. And they want to pretend like they never met you. It was, of
course, it was because it's embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. Like no one ever goes and tells their friend about the marriage counselor that helped them out.
It's almost like if you came into Wall Street Oasis and you're like, oh, you idiot, like click, 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 click. And like the revenue tripled or quadrupled. And I was like, oh man, like that, I'd be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Right.
You send me on your way.
Yeah.
On my way,
that was me because I was so smart to bring in this. Yeah. No, I get it. There's a lot of ego involved.
And so like that time I kind of wanted to hang around because I didn't have any other options. I needed the money. But
can you tell me a little bit about the arrangement you made with him in terms of like pay? Was it like just a retainer, or was it a success fee, anything like that?
Yeah, let me just hit that last point. It's good. I need to leave, and I've realized that. I'm a change agent. I'm not a peacetime general. And once change, what's the other thing? Some towns need a gunslinger, some need a sheriff.
Yeah.
Once everything's fixed, I don't need to be there, and I need to move on. Fees, it ranges. The bigger firms like to do an hourly fee and stuff a whole lot of consultants in there, run up the bill and all that. I try to do a daily. If I can work it to a monthly or something, I can. There's lots of options with, gain sharing, equity. There's lots and lots of ways to skin the cat. And I would, hourly is probably the industry standard, but
given how bad a position you were in prior to taking this role, where did you just accept whatever he said, or what was did you negotiate at all, or how did you get yourself to negotiate when you were going to do it for whatever?
I was probably so scared to death. I was negotiating with myself. I was worried about getting the gig.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't. And I underbid the hell out of it. But c'est la vie. It was my first business that was not my own, and it gave me the confidence to go get others, and it gave me a foothold on a track record.
Was he at least willing to vouch for you to other potential clients?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever
did it help. Did he ever help you, or you just had that confidence now you could go out and be like,
yeah, I just had the
trouble. So tell me so that was what, 3 months, 4 months? What was it?
That was like 6 months.
Oh, 6 months. Okay. So then did you immediately get your next one, or was there another?
Yeah, and immediately went, mostly through bank workout departments. And That's where I got most of the deal flow and where I've gotten it over the years. And then
Sorry, explain where did you get that? Workout departments?
Yeah, bank workout departments.
So who were you contacting?
Really, a bank's got two departments: sales and collections.
Yeah.
The sales guys, the guy with a great, good smile, strong handshake, low golf handicap, and an expense account. The workout guy is this troll in the basement who's a collector, and that's it. And he doesn't have an expense account or a golf game. And that when you get transferred from one to the other, you're in trouble. But those are the folks I work with, and their job is their job's tough. They have to get the bank's money back, but also maintain their standing in the community, be decent people about it.
Yeah. And so tell me about, like, how are you developing relationships with those collection people, or like how are you doing? How are you in terms of deal flow? Somebody who's looking for a turnaround, who feels confident, it's a good source to like befriend those people in the community, or just so who the clients
if you look at the TMA, the Turnaround Management Association, they rank it bank workout. Second would be bankruptcy attorneys, and third would be CPAs.
Great. That's useful. Thank you.
And then if you're on the investment side, it's mostly investment bankers and brokers, or some corporate development folks, who will do divestitures out of big companies.
So for all the listeners right now, would you recommend them going or targeting restructuring?
No, I'd stay the hell away from this.
Yeah. Really?
It's fast, crazy, chaotic.
Yeah.
And if it fits your lifestyle, it's the greatest thing in the world. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it is, you got to be comfortable breaking lots and lots and lots of stuff to make something work.
Okay, so tell me about your next, or one of your next clients. What was the kind of the toughest, any that you weren't able to save? I'm sure there's some. I mean, some are just irreparable, but
yeah, some are irreparable.
Probably where the CEOs are still there.
Yeah, and the key is really it's like a plan of cascading failures. So first thing is we're gonna jam sales and grow our way out of this. But if that doesn't work, then we're going to work on a strategic sale. And if that doesn't work, then we're going to work on selling to a financial buyer. And if that doesn't work, we're going to have a panic sale to anybody in the world. And if that doesn't work, well, then we'll talk to the bank and have a slow, orderly, peaceful liquidation where everybody, where it's clean. And what that does is what I didn't have. It allows the owner to go out with a nice, clean plan, having every shot at success. And at the end, they have their dignity and their pride intact, and they've been treated well, and the bank treats them with respect. And that's really what the whole secret to turnarounds is having a really good plan and executing it really, really fast. Because bad news is coming at you, but bad news only moves so fast. And if you can move faster than the bad news, you can gain on it. If you sit there, right now, bad news is spreading pretty quickly, and I think there's a lot of people just sitting there, and they're just getting run over.
Yeah, interesting. So tell me about kind of the next. You got your taste of success. You got your confidence. You started landing clients. You started kind of bringing in some cash into the family and feeling good. Then it's continued forever. You started when did you start writing the book?
So let's see. So that was, so like Detroit was 2009, 2013. I bought a business with a friend and did our own turnaround. So I'm kind of a mix between consulting and doing it as an investor. And I was headed up to northern Manitoba in the middle of winter for a paper mill that had just been purchased. And I was thinking, I do all this from scratch every time, blank piece of paper, nobody knows anything. And I got to take them through the whole program. If I only had a playbook or something that I could give to people, just bring them up to speed faster. And so I just started outlining, and I was up there for, 6 weeks in the dead of winter, and just started outlining and then filling in the skeleton. And then quite frankly, it spun out of control and became a book over the next couple of years.
And so how did you have time? Was it in between clients that you did that? Or I guess at that point you were an investor in a company. And what gave you the time for that?
I did it nights and weekends in Canada, and then the second big blast was I spent a month in Spain, and I wrote it in the mornings in Barcelona before the U.S. woke up, and that was pretty much those two big blasts. And somebody entered, and I had this.
Why don't you show the book and tell people about it so they can go buy it?
Corporate Turnaround Artistry, fix any business in 100 days. And this takes you from getting in trouble, dealing with the bank, restructuring your debt on the other side, and coming out clean and healthy. And it's everything I've learned from my own experiences and fixing dozens and dozens of other books.
And we'll link to that in the show notes as well for people.
It'd be great. And I'll tell you, nobody likes a turnaround topic. I posted the other day on WSO saying, basically, hey, look, we're in a recession. Here's a book, and it's a valuable resource for somebody. Mm-hmm. And all I'm getting is monkey crap thrown at me because no one wants to talk about it.
I think it's because the community is very, very protective of people not coming on and promoting something, especially if you're a new member. So that's probably why. If you come on with like an AMA and then we embed this podcast and whatnot, I think they'll be much more open.
Okay.
It's almost like, if you give you the green light, as you're available as a mentor or whatnot, or even if you're not, I think people will be much more open to asking you a lot.
Well, that's a much more sensible approach.
Because people don't want, like, they don't know, so they just
I get how it could look bad.
Yeah, so I think you're running this company for 6 years. Tell me about that path from 13 to even you're still running it.
No, we sold that one off. Okay. And I think, I'll tell you that what I see right now, and I saw this in 9, and I didn't have much of a platform. No, not anybody would really listen to me. If you think about driving a car and you use, turnarounds, there's lots of metaphors, none are so great, but, take the economy of the last 4 years, everybody, 10-lane interstate, everybody's hauling ass at 80 miles an hour. Everything's fantastic. But we know now we know there's a turn up ahead, right? So everybody's going to go into this turn after flying down the road real fast. If you know anything about, driving race cars or anything, the way you do a turn is you brake hard going in, you accelerate fast going out. Mm-hmm. That's the exact same thing you got to do with the business. I mean, right now, today, quite frankly, weeks ago, people need to be stomping on their brakes, hoarding cash, doing their cuts, raising prices, moving their balance sheet around, doing everything absolutely possible, and get in a position. And let's say, the virus is going to peak in 3 months, and the stock market will start looking good in 6. You should be jamming the gas at month 3 coming out of it.
Do you think that? I almost feel like peak panic will be in 3 weeks, early April, when the rate of, I think the testing is so far behind that forget about that. But the actual you can't avoid reporting deaths, right? So in terms of, if not to be too morbid, but in, there's the 19 days plus the 5-day incubation, so like 20 something days from when they really started shutting things down, especially here in Santa Clara County where I live, which is like one of the epicenters of the breakouts. I'm thinking like early April, we're going to see the worst acceleration of actual deaths in the area, which is really, and I feel like the market has already come down so far, so fast that it's almost that expectation hasn't been maybe fully priced in, the chaos that will happen, I think, in the next few weeks. But I feel like, yeah.
You look at 09, I think the market bottomed in March. And I don't think revenues at manufacturing companies bottomed till probably very similar to what I had in Detroit, August, September.
I think there's going to be, for sure, the ripple effects for sure will be dragged on. But I'm thinking more market. Like, what do you think in terms of like the price action and stuff like that? You feel
I don't follow the stock market.
Oh, you don't? Okay. So.
No, I just.
No, I agree with you in terms of
passive spectator. It just seems so disjointed from reality.
Yeah.
What, the economy grew 2.7% last year, and the market went up 30, and nobody saw a problem with that. But they're all horrified when they start matching each other. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like smaller businesses where I know what's going on.
Cool.
And I have some controls. But anyway, so what you watch, 90% of the companies will break too late. They're not doing it now. They're not getting aggressive. They're thinking about it. and then they'll be scared and sort of emotionally wrecked and everything, and they're not going to accelerate out of this, but somebody will. And there's going to be this huge distancing. You take an industry now that's fairly close.
Mm-hmm.
A year from now, the bottom person is going to be gone. The top person is going to be really healthy, and we'll come out of this stronger. And everybody gets to make that choice right now, but probably no one's making that choice.
Mm-hmm.
But it is very conscious. You can turn crisis into the best thing to ever happen to you,
Mm-hmm.
only because everybody else is getting their ass kicked so bad that they're not paying attention.
Interesting.
But boy,
you think it's mindset,
like almost impossible.
The psychology of it is just like hoarding fear or just like fear, paralyzing fear, instead of actually going out and executing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go through it enough times that like I'm just smiling and whacking and kicking ass and making changes, knowing that it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been through it dozens of times. My first one, I was a mess. I did everything wrong and too slow and too late. And this is a lot of people's first ones, or maybe it's their second, but they forgot over 15 years of sunshine.
So tell me a little bit about that business where you were acquiring distressed industrial operations, correct? And kind of taking them into as a roll-up strategy.
No, all different industries, just very opportunistic.
And so how many businesses did you acquire over those?
6 in 7 years.
Great. And
and they don't all work, but some do.
Okay. And so you came out okay from all that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
And then, tell me, what are you up to nowadays? What's the game?
For the first time in 4 years, I have nothing going on. It's the greatest feeling in the world. I'm helping a friend do a wind down, who feels better and better about his decision every day as the whole rest of the world's going bananas. Chilling out at home, and I'll take on a bunch of small projects, and there's going to be some big, fat, juicy acquisition falling in my lap in the next 6 months. And I'm just doing everything I can to stay available for that.
And that means like stay liquid?
But it's as much time as anything. Right. If I'm consumed on something, on somebody else's project, I can't do my own. And I think that's the opportunity cost. It's the biggest cost.
And so you feel like right now, I guess you already have those relationships, so you're going to start hearing of potential real distress somewhere with good fundamentals underlying it, that you feel like, ooh, this is a great opportunity to come in. Yeah. I guess talk to me a little, or tell the listeners a little bit of like what typically you look for in a turnaround candidate as an investor.
It's it's a part of it's undescribable, right? Kind of like an architect goes into a house and knows if it has good bones. That good customers, blue chip customers certainly stand out. A part in an industrial product, if you make a small switch on a Toyota Camry, there's demand for the next 5 years. If you make anything on a shelf in any retail store, they really don't need you tomorrow. They can run their store just fine without your stuff or somebody else's version of yours. But if you have an engineered part on something other than maybe a 737, you're probably doing pretty good. So, you look at that, and then leverage. Who are your customers? Who are your vendors? Who are your employees? Is there a union? And who's the bank? And if you can get all four, you get your customers to consume, your lenders to lend, your suppliers to supply, and your workers to work, it works. What happens in a turnaround is, everybody stopped doing that. It's all falling apart. And I've just got to go convince everybody to let's go all get back in our roles and do our job. And we've had pretty good success taking over factories that have actually stopped production. And we, basically bring the band back together and go around. Customers still want us, vendors still want us, employees still want us. And if you can hold that together, you got a business.
How much do you feel like, it's case by case, but is a lot of the value add that you bring, do you feel like just knowing how to negotiate with the banks?
Yeah. And I would say everybody else, the banks, and everybody's got their weakness and leverage, and everybody wants something out of this, right? And it's usually the return of their money. And the only way in a good turnaround, the only possible way they're ever going to get paid is through future cash flows. So they have to support me, whether they like it or not. They have to support me to have an opportunity at getting paid back through future cash flows.
And in terms of the specifics of the bank loan, I mean, if it's a secured loan, like senior secured loan, isn't there option also just to whatever they call it, not foreclose on it, but just to take
Foreclose.
ownership? But a lot of them don't actually want that, right?
Yeah.
It's a bad outcome.
If they're going to come up short, I'll tell you, if you're a small company at a big bank and they can liquidate you and get all their money back, they're just going to liquidate your ass and that's it. But if you're not that, then you have a chance of working with them. Smaller banks will actually want to put the credit back on their books, even though it's been downgraded through the regulators. And or you can move to another bank. Often you'll go from a big bank to an ABL shop. If you're deep, it's a dumb thing to say, like, if I owe the bank $1 million, I have a problem. If I owe the bank $10 million, the bank has a problem. But there's some truth to that. If the banks own a bunch and they can't extract it through an auction, then and you can give them a really good plan that they believe in, they'll support that plan to get paid back in full.
Let's talk a little bit. I'll let you go soon, but tell me a little bit more about, as an investor, for people who are interested in following a similar path to you. How do they even get into that? Can they buy a distressed small company, say making only $100,000 in revenue, but no profit? Is that too small, or do these things work from a tiny scale up all the way to the multi-million-dollar?
They probably work at a tiny scale. They have to work at a tiny scale. I don't go down that far. Our range is probably 30 million low to 500 million high as far as revenues go. Almost always negative EBITDA, so that's not a good measure. But the fundamentals, and you could certainly take over, I think, any business and improve the way it's running. And here's another secret.
Like, how do people develop these skills? Is the only way to do it is to actually start? Like, how should they start as a consultant like you did? Is that the best way to kind of gain?
I'll tell you, when I did, first thing I did is the Turnaround Management Association has a certification program, certified turnaround professional, 3 different books, 3 different exams, management, finance, and law. And I bought the books and studied them. I thought, well, here's sort of my entry ticket, right? If I know what's in these books, I should know probably what I need to know. And that's what I got. It's really hard for a young person to get into the industry because you have to know so much about all these different topics. They all flow together. And if you know 2 and not the third, you're going to struggle. But the fact that, I know what the factory is doing, I understand the cash flow forecast, and I understand all my options in and out of bankruptcy court when I'm dealing with the bank, I can have a complete conversation.
Right. You understand the legal aspects. You understand the financial aspects of how to actually sell versus the.
And I know what the company's actually, capable of. And then the fourth thing is the psychology and the people. And you gotta motivate hundreds of people who are completely demotivated and have a bad attitude. And you got to somehow get them not only having a good attitude, but working twice as hard as they have previously, and doing things and trying harder than they ever have before. And if you can pull that off, that sure helps.
So any other guidance or any wisdom you learned over the years that you would tell your younger self or tell the younger listeners before we call it?
Oh my God, this is the greatest opportunity in the world right now with coronavirus. And get in there, get aggressive, get knocked around, and we'll learn the hard way. And try and manage risk. Listen, when I'm an investor, I manage risk. I don't really look at upside. But if I have my downside controlled and my upside will bounce, that's okay. But I've been wiped out. I know what it's like. My partner's been wiped out. He knows what it's like. And I don't think most people are as shell shocked and risk adverse as we are, but I like it that way.
That's great. We'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. Tell the listeners your book one more time.
Corporate Turnaround Artistry, Fix Any Business in 100 Days, available on Amazon.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thanks a lot, Patrick. Take care.
And thanks to you, my listeners at Wall Street Oasis. If you have any suggestions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to send them my way, patrick@wallstreetoasis.com. Until next time.